Chapter 2037. True immortal soaring cloud glared at the Thunder Emperor with bloodshot eyes. He was a legacy disciple of the Imperial Wind Monastery, one of the 4 major immortal sections. Furthermore, he was a paragon among the legacy disciples and was extremely famous in the divine firmament immortal realm. He could not accept such a defeat. He refused to believe that he would lose to someone who had a shattered Dao fruit and was severely injured given his talent and combat strength. Blade Storm. True immortal soaring cloud activated his essence spirit without hesitation and unleashed a killing mystic technique of the Imperial Wind Monastery. This mystic technique used quintessential essence as the foundation to condense countless sharp blades that spun and gathered continuously. Eventually, they formed a destructive storm that could engulf all living beings and tear them apart. The denser one's quintessential essence was, and the more blades one could condense, the stronger the mystic technique. Now, under true immortal soaring cloud's control, the flying dagger fragments that had fallen to the ground turned into beams of cold light that surged into the storm. The blade storm became even more terrifying as it tried to devour the Thunder Emperor. The Thunder Emperor swung the spirit-vanquishing whip in his hand towards the blade storm. The spirit-vanquishing whip shattered on the spot upon collision. Not far away, true immortal soaring cloud's body swayed slightly. His eyes dimmed and his aura suddenly became extremely weak. The power of the spirit-vanquishing whip could directly descend upon his essence spirit. However, he managed to withstand it in the end. Due to the damage to his essence spirit, the blade storm paused momentarily. At that moment, the Thunder Emperor did not dodge. Instead, he advanced forward. With just a single step, he charged into the blade storm and arrived at the center of the storm. There were numerous wounds on the Thunder Emperor's body from the storm. However, the deepest of these wounds were only flesh lacerations and not his bones. The Thunder Emperor created the Void Lightning Manual, and his lightning bones were extremely tough and unshakable. Under the Thunder Emperor's powerful blood chi and the medicinal effects of the 7 Dawn Immortal Ginseng, these superficial wounds stopped bleeding and began to heal in the blink of an eye. The Thunder Emperor's blood chi continued to rise. He stood in the center of the blade storm with lightning circling his body. He was majestic and unmoving. True immortal soaring cloud was shocked when he saw this. The blade storm of the Imperial Wind Monastery was extremely powerful. Very few mystic techniques could withstand it head-on. However, this blade storm was not without its weakness. The center of the storm was the weakness of this secret technique. However, even if someone knew about this weakness, it would be useless. These people were torn to shreds before they could even reach the center of the storm. And now, true immortal Cloudsoar was witnessing with his very own eyes a person who, relying solely on his own flesh and blood, had charged into the eye of the storm and stood there. Who do you think you are to challenge me? The Thunder Emperor's eyes flashed like lightning as he roared. The frightening evil spear in his hand slammed heavily into the ground. Boom! The entire soaring dragon mountain range shook. On the body of the frightening evil spear, a dazzling ray of lightning exploded, instantly covering the sharp blade storm and swallowing it. Those flying dagger fragments were all shattered into fine powder by the violent power of the frightened evil spear, floating in the air. The blade storm had been broken by the Thunder Sovereign in a single move. True immortal Cloudsoar finally bowed his head. He had to admit that the gap between the two of them was too great. Previously, he even said that if the Thunder Emperor was born in the same era as him, he wouldn't have been able to obtain the glory of a supreme true immortal. Now that he thought about it, it was truly laughable. True immortal Cloudsoar swept his storage bag and took out a teleportation talisman. Tearing it apart, he was prepared to leave. The void behind him suddenly caved in, and a huge dark tunnel appeared. True immortal Cloudsoar's figure was concealed within. Trying to escape? The Thunder Emperor sneered and vanished from where he was in a flash. Buzz! The frightening evil spear arrived instantly, and the gigantic spearhead shone with a thunderous light. As it streaked through the void, it was as though the entire world was trembling and wailing. Exclamation point! Within the dark tunnel, a blood light burst forth. The Thunder Emperor's frightening evil spear flicked and true immortal Cloudsoar's figure was sent flying out of the spatial tunnel. Within the spatial tunnel, true immortal Cloudsoar did not dare to release his essence spirit. Without the protection of his physical body, even a true immortal's essence spirit would not be able to withstand the pressure of the spatial tunnel. A gigantic hole was pierced through true immortal Cloudsoar's chest by the frightening evil spear as blood gushed out like a fountain. The frightening evil spear was a pure yang spirit treasure and the power of thunder coiled around it. Even for true immortal Cloudsoar who could regenerate from a single drop of blood, his wound could not heal in a short period of time. "Fengcan, you can't kill me." True immortal Cloudsoar endured the pain and gritted his teeth. "I am Imperial Wind Guan, Pucci." Without waiting for true immortal Cloudsoar to finish, the Thunder Emperor's spear pierced through his forehead and destroyed his essence spirit on the spot. "I will also kill the Imperial Wind Guan's true disciple." The Thunder Emperor sneered. "You want to use the Imperial Wind Guan to suppress me? Too naive." Who was Fengcan in the past? He was someone who had almost established a celestial kingdom in the divine firmament immortal domain and had almost become a grotto heaven king. He could stand up to celestial kings and look down on the divine firmament palace. He had even severed ties with the entire divine firmament immortal domain. Why would he be afraid of the Imperial Wind Guan? On the other side, Duke Yuanzhua and Lone Star worked together with many Earth Immortals and Sky Immortals to shatter the Black Tortoise Sacred Soul. Although the Black Tortoise Sacred Soul was powerful, it could only kill a top-tier Sky Immortal. It could not withstand the attacks of so many Sky Immortals. The moment the Black Tortoise Sacred Soul was shattered was the moment the Thunder Emperor broke through the Blade Storm. Duke Yuanzhua saw that the situation was not good and had to leave. The other cultivators also scattered, afraid that the Thunder Emperor would kill them. Even true immortal Mirror Moon had fled when she saw that true immortal Flying Cloud had been defeated. She had almost disappeared from everyone's sight. The Thunder Emperor stared at true immortal Mirror Moon coldly. "Don't go." Just as the Thunder Emperor was about to chase after true immortal Mirror Moon, true immortal Zhangye suddenly shook his head and said, "You can't stay here for long. Those two people might catch up at any time. You can't defeat them." The Thunder Emperor narrowed his eyes and took a deep breath to calm down. One of the two people true immortal Zhangye mentioned was Prince Jin's Crown Prince, Prince An, and the other was Prince Tianqing. They were two celestial kings. In the past year, he had not been able to completely escape from the pursuit of these two celestial kings. Even if his injuries were healed, it would be difficult for him to fight against celestial kings. Duke Yuanzhua's plan was obviously hidden from Prince Jin and Prince Tianqing. However, the news of such a fierce battle in soaring Dragon Mountain range could not be hidden for long. Celestial kings could use the greater teleportation technique to break through the void and teleport long distances. If Prince Jin and Prince Tianqing knew about this, they would arrive in a few breaths' time. By then, not only him, but true immortal Zhangye, Su Zimo, and Feng Zi would also die here. "Let's go. Let's leave first." The Thunder Emperor picked up the burly man's storage bag and said in a low voice. True immortal Zhangye took out a teleportation talisman and tore it apart. A dimensional tunnel appeared next to it. The Thunder Emperor protected Su Zimo and Feng Zi and entered the tunnel with true immortal Zhangye. Soaring Dragon Mountain range returned to peace. Chapter 2038. Great Jin Celestial Nation, Sun Moon County. Outside of Blue Feather City, in a dense and wild forest, there was a continuous chain of mountain peaks and cliffs that were extremely steep. A crack suddenly appeared in the sky above one of the mountains, and 4 figures descended. They were the Thunder Emperor, true immortal Knight Burier, Su Zimo, and Feng Zi. "Where is this?" Su Zimo descended and surveyed his surroundings. True immortal Knight Burier took out a map and looked at it carefully. After a while, he said, "With the teleportation talisman, we must be out of Blue Cloud County. This should be Sun Moon County, near Blue Feather City. It's safe for now. Old friend, thank you." The Thunder Emperor patted true immortal Knight Burier's shoulder and said, "We haven't seen each other for more than 400,000 years. I'm already old. True immortal Knight Burier said softly. He didn't have much lifespan left, and after this battle, he was severely injured and lost a lot of his lifespan. Even if he recuperated, he wouldn't be able to live much longer. A true immortal had a lifespan of 500,000 years. If the Thunder Emperor hadn't reached the Grotto Heaven realm and had a lifespan of 1,000,000 years, he wouldn't be much different from true immortal Knight Burier. Both of them came from Tianhuang, and they had ascended together. They had fought countless battles side by side and experienced life and death situations together. This kind of relationship was unimaginable. I'm sorry. True immortal Knight Burier seemed to think of something, and his voice became a bit gloomy. I didn't take good care of Yunzhou. Yunzhou was the Thunder Emperor's only son, Feng Zi's father. Yunzhou, that child, the Thunder Emperor's expression was lonely, and there was a hint of deep sorrow in his eyes. How did he die? The Thunder Emperor asked. In the past year, the Thunder Emperor had only heard bits and pieces. He knew that his son was killed by the Crown Prince of King Jin, but he didn't know the details. True immortal Knight Burier glanced at Feng Zi, then told him about the past. After the Thunder Emperor was suppressed, Qin Yi, under the lead of true immortal Knight Burier and Yunzhou, often caused trouble in the Great Jin celestial nation and took revenge. The most serious incident was when a county governor of the Great Jin dynasty was assassinated, causing a huge commotion in the celestial nation. After that, Dajin immortal country somehow got the news and captured Lu Xuansu, Feng Yunzhou's Dao partner and Feng Zi's mother. Prince Jin took this opportunity to force Feng Yunzhou to show himself and fight fair and square. Back then, both of them were true immortals. Furthermore, both of them were peerless monsters amongst true immortals. This battle was also the focus of everyone's attention. This great battle shook the heavens and the earth, causing the sun and moon to lose their luster. In the end, the wind cloud boat won and gradually gained the upper hand. Seeing that Prince Jin was in danger, the executioners of the Dajin celestial nation purposely forced Lu Xuansu out and killed her in front of Feng Yunzhou. At this point, true immortal buried Knight sighed softly, unable to continue. Feng Zi was already in tears. Su Zimo was silent. When top cultivators fought, they couldn't afford to be distracted at all. The slightest mistake could determine victory and defeat, determine life and death. When the executioners killed Lu Xuansu, Feng Yunzhou couldn't imagine what kind of psychological impact it would have. It wasn't hard to imagine that Feng Yunzhou would be defeated and killed. Su Zimo looked at Feng Zi. This woman had seen her parents being killed with her own eyes. This must have left a wound in her heart that couldn't be healed. At this moment, Su Zimo suddenly understood her coldness, her wariness, her silence, and her fearlessness of death. Feng Zi didn't trust anyone and was always on guard. It wasn't just because she cultivated the Tao of assassination, but also because she had suffered such a huge blow before. No matter how badly she was injured, she didn't seem to feel any pain. She was expressionless the entire time. Perhaps it was because this pain wasn't even a 10,000th of the pain in her heart. Su Zimo suddenly felt a sense of pity for Feng Zi. The Thunder Emperor clenched his teeth and clenched his fists so hard that his knuckles turned white. He took a few deep breaths and gradually calmed down. After being suppressed for more than 400,000 years, he had gone through too much and endured too much. There was nothing that could shake his heart anymore. The Thunder Emperor turned around and looked at Feng Zi. He was a little emotional, a little helpless, and his eyes were slightly red. Feng Zi's expression was also very complicated. She didn't dare to look into the Thunder Emperor's eyes. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, she couldn't say it out loud. After all, this was the first time the two of them met. Are you really Yunzhou and Xuansu's child? The Thunder Emperor's voice was trembling. He had been suppressed in the 10 Extreme prison for more than 400,000 years and didn't know about Feng Zi's existence. Feng Zi nodded. Her movement was so small that it was almost undetectable. She opened her mouth again and called out softly, "Grandpa." Although her voice was soft, it was extremely clear in the Thunder Emperor's ears. His heart trembled when he heard it. He quickly took a few steps forward and hugged Feng Zi. He said sorrowfully, "Child, you've suffered all these years." In fact, the Thunder Emperor had noticed Feng Zi's existence in the 10 Extreme prison. He even felt an inexplicable intimacy from Feng Zi. However, he had just escaped and was fighting with many true immortals. He didn't have the time to think about these things. When true immortal buried knight saw this, he let out a rare smile and said, "Seeing the two of you reunite, one of my worries has been lifted. I can die without regrets. I'll leave Z in your care from now on." The Thunder Emperor's body trembled when he heard this. He seemed to have thought of something and separated from Feng Zi. The Thunder Emperor first took out 2 jade pendants from his storage pouch and placed them between his eyebrows. He injected a bolt of lightning into them and gave them to Su Zimo and Feng Zi. "Put this jade pendant on," the Thunder Emperor said. Su Zimo was a little confused, but he still hung the jade pendant on his waist. The Thunder Emperor said, "The two of you have already escaped, but you were found by the Executioner's Celestial Guards because the Executioner's Celestial Guards commanders all know a tracking technique. This tracking technique uses blood as a guide. It's called the Blood Guide Secret Technique. If your bloodline leaks out, they'll control it and use it to track your whereabouts." Su Zimo was enlightened. It was no wonder that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua was able to find them so quickly even though they were on the run. It was because the two of them had been injured in the main hall and revealed their bloodline. "This jade pendant is ordinary, but it contains my lightning energy. It can cut off the power of the Blood Guide Secret Technique. Keep it with you at all times." The Thunder Emperor warned, "When your cultivation reaches a certain level of the heavenly origin stage, you can take off the jade pendant." Chapter 2039. The Thunder Emperor's mood suddenly became gloomy. He stood on top of the mountain and looked into the distance with a complicated expression. After a long time, the Thunder Emperor said softly, "I'm leaving Godly Cloud Continent." Feng Zi quickly said, "Grandpa, where are you going? We'll go together." "You're Ken Ye's soul." True Immortal Buried Knight said, "Ken Yi will be wherever you are." The Thunder Emperor shook his head slightly. "You can't come with me." "Why not?" When Feng Zi asked this question, she could already guess the answer in her heart. The Thunder Emperor sighed. "I'm King Enshur and King Tianxing's target. If you follow me, you might die at any time. Only if I separate from you will we have a chance to survive." True Immortal Buried Knight and the Thunder Emperor had known each other for many years, so he quickly understood what he meant. The Thunder Emperor might not be able to escape from 2 celestial kings alone. If he brought True Immortal Buried Knight and Feng Zi with him, it would be difficult for him to move, and they would be easily caught. At that time, all 3 of them would die. Su Zimo thought for a while and asked, "What if you can break through to Grotto Heaven Realm and become a celestial king? Will you be able to suppress King Enshur and King Tianxing? Will you not have to run anymore?" "Grotto Heaven King?" The Thunder Emperor smiled and shook his head. "It's not that easy to enter Grotto Heaven Realm and become a celestial king. With the help of your 7 Dawn Ginseng, I'll be able to recover after a few days of rest. But I failed to become a king back then. If I want to try again, it'll be 100 times, 1,000 times harder. If I don't have a great opportunity, I might not even be able to enter Grotto Heaven Realm in my life." Su Zimo was silent. He felt a little regretful. Although the Thunder Emperor had escaped, the accident back then had caused him irreparable damage. Even the 400,000 years of being suppressed in the 10 Extremes prison, who could compensate for it? The Thunder Emperor continued, "Moreover, even if I can enter Grotto Heaven Realm, I'll have to leave here. My opponents aren't just 1 or 2 celestial kings." The Thunder Emperor wanted to say something but stopped. King Enshur and King Tianxing had the entire Dajin celestial kingdom behind them. Even if the Thunder Emperor was bestowed the title of king, it would still be very difficult for him to contend against an entire celestial empire. "Where are you going?" True Immortal Buried Knight asked, "Which of the 9 immortal realms? Or Lin Zhan's?" Lin Zhan was the human emperor. After pausing for a moment, True Immortal Zhangye continued, "However, I heard that several thousand years ago, Lin Zhan was severely injured for some reason. He originally had the chance to step into the immortal emperor realm, but because of this injury, he lost the chance to become an immortal emperor. I wonder if he has fully recovered by now." Hearing this, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Thousands of years ago? Could it be that time when the human sovereign descended to the mortal world? Su Zimo hurriedly recounted what had happened at the convention of the 10,000 Races of Heaven Wasteland domain. Upon hearing this, both the Thunder Emperor and True Immortal Buried Knight were greatly moved. Lin Zhan, as expected of the human emperor of all ages. True Immortal Buried Knight sighed. The Thunder Sovereign sighed and said, "If you forcefully descend to the lower realm without becoming a martial emperor, you will definitely suffer a backlash from the laws of heaven and earth. This kind of injury may be difficult to recover from in your lifetime." Chapter 2040. Seeing that the Thunder Emperor had made up his mind, they stopped trying to persuade him. Moreover, both True Immortal Zhangye and Feng Zi knew that the Thunder Emperor had to leave the divine firmament immortal realm to have a chance at survival. If he stayed here, he would die without a doubt. Although the Thunder Emperor had made up his mind, he did not leave immediately. He only looked at True Immortal Zhangye and Feng Zi quietly, unwilling to part with them. He and Feng Zi had just met. If not for the situation, he would not have made the decision to leave. True Immortal Zhangye said, "I didn't expect that we would have to part again after 400,000 years of separation. Don't worry, I'll try to live a few more years and help you take care of Z." "Thank you, brother." The Thunder Emperor nodded. True Immortal Zhangye took out a jar of strong liquor from his storage bag, opened the mud seal, and prepared to pour a few bowls to bid farewell to the Thunder Emperor. Drinking from bowls is too pretentious. The Thunder Emperor waved his hand and said, "Take out 4 jars, one for each of us." "All right." True Immortal Zhangye said, "Other than you, I don't think anyone else will drink with me in the future." As he spoke, he took out 3 jars of strong liquor and gave them to Su Zimo and Feng Zi. "Come, Brother Su." The Thunder Emperor looked at Su Zimo and raised his wine jar, declaring loudly, "Senior Thunder Emperor." Su Zimo quickly picked up the jar. The Thunder Emperor's expression stiffened. "Brother Su, why are you still calling me senior? You're treating me like an outsider. You and I are congenial, you can just call me big brother." "How can I?" Su Zimo quickly refused. Whether it was in Tianhuang, the upper world, or in terms of cultivation, the Thunder Emperor was his senior. Feng Zi frowned as well. If Su Zimo was on the same level as the Thunder Emperor, wouldn't she have to lower her head for no reason? The Thunder Emperor laughed loudly. He pressed down on Su Zimo's shoulder and said, "Those seniority rules are all bullshit. I, Feng Kentian, don't even care about them. If I like them, I'll be friends with them. If you don't like it, so what if you're an immortal emperor? Brother Su, if you don't mind, then drink this jar of wine." When Su Zimo heard the Thunder Emperor's heroic words, his blood and chi surged as he shouted, "All right, big brother Feng, I salute you." True Immortal Zhangye and Feng Zi raised their wine jars as well. The wine jars of the 4 men collided with each other, producing a crisp sound. They raised their heads and drank heartily. The 4 of them knew that after this jar of strong liquor, everyone would leave. The heaven realm was vast, and the future was boundless. In the future, the 4 of them might not have the chance to meet again. The 4 of them didn't stop until they finished the jug of wine in one gulp. Normally speaking, with Su Zimo's cultivation, ordinary wine would not make him feel drunk at all. However, after drinking this jar of strong liquor, Su Zimo actually felt his cheeks turn slightly red and his head become dizzy. Feng Zi couldn't hold on any longer. Her face was red, and she was about to collapse. "Ha!" The Thunder Emperor laughed loudly and praised Su Zimo. To be able to drink this jar of wine and not get drunk, what powerful chi! One had to know that the strong liquor that True Immortal Zhangye collected was not ordinary. Even with their cultivation, they would feel slightly tipsy after drinking it. "Brother Su." The Thunder Emperor heavily patted Su Zimo's shoulder and said with a faint smile, "We can talk as equals, but you can't take advantage of my granddaughter. Between the 2 of you, it's still your own business." Su Zimo had a feeling that the Thunder Emperor's words had a deeper meaning to them. However, he was still a bit dizzy and couldn't think too much. He just subconsciously said, "Of course. Let's go." The Thunder Emperor took a deep breath and his eyes regained their clarity. He stood at the top of the mountain and turned his head to look at the rivers and mountains below. He said in a serious tone, "There will be a day when I, Fong Kantion, will openly step onto this land." With that, the Thunder Emperor's body flashed with lightning, and he disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Su Zimo stood on the mountain peak. Qinglian's bloodline kept surging, and the breeze on the mountain peak woke her up. "What are your plans?" True Immortal Zhang asked. "Do you want to come with us?" Su Zimo thought for a moment and shook his head. "Forget it. I've experienced too much in the past year. I'm going to find a place to cultivate in seclusion." "That's good." True Immortal Zhang nodded and said, "Be careful and don't expose your identity. Also, try not to use that cauldron of yours in the future." "Thank you for the reminder, Senior." Su Zimo thanked him. True Immortal Zhang handed over a black token that was 2 fingers wide. A dagger surrounded by lightning was drawn on it. "This is a token. If you see the same symbol somewhere, you can find the people of Kenyi." Su Zimo took the token and thanked him again. True Immortal Zhang nodded and held Feng Zi, who was still drunk, as they disappeared into the void. Su Zimo didn't stay on the mountain peak and went down. In the sky above the soaring Dragon Mountain range, a huge crack suddenly appeared, revealing the dark tunnel inside. A figure walked out with one hand behind his back. His expression was calm, and his every movement exuded the aura of a royal family. His eyes were like jewels in the deep sea, deep and mysterious. Prince Ungshi. Prince Jin came to the sky above soaring Dragon Mountain range and looked at the ruined battlefield and the naked man's corpse. His expression turned cold. "Nzwa, Mirror Moon." Prince Jin suddenly said, "Those who are still alive, come to soaring Dragon Mountain range." Prince Jin's voice wasn't loud, but it spread for thousands of miles. Prince Yuanzhua and True Immortal Mirror Moon, who were running away, both trembled. At the same time, they heard a rumor about Prince Jin in their minds. This 1,000-mile sound transmission technique. The two of them didn't dare to hesitate. They quickly turned around and headed towards soaring Dragon Mountain range. Soon, they arrived at the mountain range. At the same time, another space tunnel appeared in the sky. Prince Tianxing walked out with a murderous look on his face. "Where is he?" Prince Tianxing asked in a deep voice. "Where is he?" Prince Jin was expressionless. He looked at Prince Yuanzhua and True Immortal Mirror Moon calmly and asked softly. Prince Yuanzhua and True Immortal Mirror Moon couldn't take the pressure and knelt down. "Big brother, please forgive me." Chapter 2041. Escaped. Duke Yuanzhua's voice was trembling. He was sweating profusely and did not dare to look at the Crown Prince. "Very good." The Crown Prince nodded and looked at Duke Yuanzhua. He asked, "You should know who Feng Kantion is, right?" Duke Yuanzhua nodded. "You should know how Feng Santian's escape will affect the Dajin Celestial Kingdom, right?" The Crown Prince asked again. His tone was calm and one could not tell if he was happy or angry. "I know." Duke Yuanzhua swallowed his saliva. After a short pause, the Crown Prince's gaze suddenly became extremely sharp. It was like a sharp knife that could pierce through Duke Yuanzhua's chest. "Since you know everything, why didn't you inform me about this earlier?" Prince Jin's voice contained a trace of power that made one's heart palpitate. I. Duke Yuanzhua's face was pale and his body was trembling. He raised his head and tried to explain, "Feng Kantion is already severely injured. I wanted to suppress him and hand him over to Big Brother? Nonsense." The Crown Prince of Prince Jin suddenly shouted and waved his sleeves. An invisible force surged out and hit the Commandery Prince of Yuanzhua's body heavily across the air. Bang! Duke Yuanzhua was sent flying over 100 feet away. He spat out a mouthful of blood and lay on the ground like a dead dog. The Crown Prince's attack had broken more than half of his bones. He almost fainted from the pain. "Yuanzhua, you are still spouting nonsense in front of me." The Crown Prince's expression was cold. He said coldly, "You just want to take the credit. You want to show off in front of Father. You want to suppress me." Who was the Crown Prince? He was originally ranked 7th among the many heirs. However, he was ruthless, decisive and had extraordinary talent. He had climbed to the top step by step. his 6 older brothers who were ranked before him had all died for various reasons. Only then did Prince In ascend to the position of Crown Prince. Everyone in the royal family knew that Prince In had something to do with the deaths of the 6 princes. As for the Crown Prince, he only turned a blind eye to this matter. Prince Jean had many heirs, and he was even happy to see this situation. Only in this way could there be a truly ruthless person, an expert who stood out from the many princes to inherit his throne and the endless territory under his command. The Crown Prince of King Jean had been through too much bloodshed. Commandery Prince Yuan's intentions could not be hidden from him. "Big brother, spare me, spare me." Commandery Prince Yuan crawled slowly towards the Crown Prince of Prince Jean. He coughed up blood as he begged for mercy. Tianqing King was expressionless as he stood at the side with his hands behind his back. He had seen too many open and covert struggles between the princes. He was only loyal to Prince Jean and would never interfere. Seeing Commandery Prince Yuan's pitiful look, Lord Jin's Crown Prince showed no pity at all. He didn't care about blood ties or brotherly ties at all. Moreover, the two of them only had the same father but different mothers. "I can understand that you want to make a contribution and stand out," the Crown Prince of Jean said coldly, "but you shouldn't be so ignorant." Big brother, Yuanzwa knows his mistake. Most of the bones in Commandery Prince Yuanzwa's body were shattered. He crawled on the ground, covered in dust, and was in a sorry state. With the Crown Prince of Jin's attack, his blood vessels could not heal in a short time. More than a year ago, Feng Kentian escaped from Juele City, which was under your jurisdiction. "I didn't punish you," the Crown Prince of Jin continued. "I didn't expect you to act on your own accord and commit such a big mistake." True Deity Mirror Moon looked at Commandery Prince Yuanzwa and sighed in her heart. She knew that if she did not stand out and say something, the Crown Prince of Jin would take his anger out on her and might even lose her life here. "Your Highness, please allow me to say a few words," True Deity Mirror Moon said in a low voice. This time, the Crown Prince of Yuan's preparations were foolproof. He even invited True Deity Fei Yun from the Imperial Wind Monastery to deal with Feng Kentian. In fact, Feng Kentian was severely injured by the Crown Prince and Tianqing King. He couldn't withstand a single blow and couldn't withstand our attacks. Who would have thought? True Deity Mirror Moon told the story of how Su Zimo gave the 7 Dawn Immortal Ginseng and how True Deity Zangya appeared. This is the process. Your Highness, please give us a way out and allow us to atone for our crimes. True Deity Mirror Moon kowtowed and begged. The Crown Prince of Jin's gaze moved between True Deity Mirror Moon and Commandery Prince Yuanzwa. He remained silent. Heaven and earth fell into a deathly silence. To Commandery Prince Yuanzwa and True Deity Mirror Moon, every breath was as long and unbearable as thousands of years. Their lives were in the hands of the Crown Prince of Jin. Scram! The Crown Prince of Jin said indifferently, "From now on, I don't want to hear any news about Kenyi in the territory of the great Jin celestial nation." Of course. Commandery Prince Yuanzwa was overjoyed. He knew that since the Crown Prince of Jin had said this, his little life could be considered saved. "Thank you, Your Highness." True Deity Mirror Moon kowtowed again and said, "From now on, I will do anything to repay Your Highness for not killing me." The Heavenly Punishment King looked on coldly and didn't say a word, but he nodded in his heart. The Crown Prince of Jin didn't kill Commandery Prince Yuanzwa because Commandery Prince Yuanzwa wasn't a threat to him. After today, Commandery Prince Yuanzwa wouldn't dare to do anything in front of him. The Crown Prince of Jin also took True Deity Mirror Moon as his subordinate. Seeing that the matter was settled, the Heavenly Punishment King said slowly, "Your Highness, let's go after Feng Kenan first. Feng Kentian has the help of the 7 Dawn Immortal Ginseng. He just needs to rest for a while and his injuries will be healed. By then, it won't be easy to surround him. Let's go." The Crown Prince of Jin nodded and waved his hand in front of him. The space in front of him was torn apart like a piece of cloth by the Crown Prince of Jin's hand, revealing a dark and deep space tunnel. The Crown Prince of Jin flashed in and disappeared. The Heavenly Punishment King followed closely behind. The crack in the sky slowly healed, and the terrifying pressure that lingered above the soaring Dragon Mountain range also dissipated. True deity Mirror Moon let out a long breath. A gentle breeze blew, and his whole body was cold. Unknowingly, his clothes were already soaked in sweat. Your Highness, how is it? True deity Mirror Moon quickly went forward and helped Commandery Prince Yuanzhua up. She took out a few spiritual pills and fed them to him. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's face was extremely gloomy, and his eyes were filled with endless hatred. He gritted his teeth and said, "Mirror Moon, gather all the forces in Cyan Cloud County and search for the rest of Kenye's gang. Kill without mercy. The most important thing is to search for that Su Zimo. If I don't tear him into pieces and burn his bones to ashes, I won't be able to vent the hatred in my heart." Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's face was ferocious, and he was so angry that his teeth were about to shatter. Also, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua said again, "Send this warrant to the other counties and ask them to help search for him. I want Su Zimo to have no place to hide in the territory of the Great Jin Dynasty. Those who provide clues will be heavily rewarded. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find him." Chapter 2042. After Su Zimo left the mountain, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he used the tri-jewel jade Rui to change his appearance. As long as Duke Yuanzhua and true immortal Mirror Moon were still alive, they would definitely not let the matter rest. Given Duke Yuanzhua's status and power, he would definitely take revenge on him. If he continued to walk around with his original appearance, he would definitely be targeted. Su Zimo pondered for a while and changed into an ugly burly man. He had a majestic figure and wore coarse hemp clothes. His chest was half exposed and he carried a wine jar in his hand. His drunken eyes were half closed. Su Zimo walked a few steps unsteadily. When he felt that there were no flaws, he walked toward Sangyu City, which was the nearest city. There were more than 100 cities under the jurisdiction of Sun Moon County. Every city had a large territory under its jurisdiction. Although it was the closest to Sangyu City, Su Zimo still took more than 3 days to reach the gates of the city. Carrying the wine jar, Su Zimo looked at the city gates with sleepy eyes and staggered in. When the guards at the city gates saw the disgusting burly man who reeked of alcohol, they looked disgusted and refused to take another look. The guards on both sides waved their hands casually and allowed Su Zimo to enter the city. Su Zimo was secretly delighted. He had changed his appearance because of this consideration. The more disgusted others were, the less they would pay attention to him. Su Zimo did not wander around the city. Instead, he headed straight for the teleportation formation in the city. He had to leave the Dajin Celestial Nation as soon as possible. Although he had the tri-jewel jade Rui, this treasure might not be able to protect him. He would only be truly safe when he left the territory of the Dajin Celestial Nation. The Dajin Celestial Nation was vast. With his cultivation, if he wanted to travel by himself, even if there were no obstacles, it would take him hundreds or even thousands of years. Moreover, he did not know what dangers he would encounter if he was alone. These hundreds of years, even thousands of years, would have been wasted in vain. Using the teleportation formation to leave was the fastest way. After about 2 hours, Su Zimo had passed through more than half of the city and arrived at the teleportation array. A large crowd had gathered in front of the teleportation array, blocking the entrance of the hall. It was a hubbub of voices. Su Zimo looked into the distance and saw that there were dozens of guards standing guard at the entrance of the hall. They were carefully examining every cultivator who wanted to enter the hall. These guards were all Earth Immortals. Behind these dozens of people, there were 2 people sitting on chairs. Their eyes were like torches as they surveyed the crowd. Their auras were terrifying. These 2 people were most likely Celestial Immortals. What's going on? Why is it suddenly so strict? Haven't you heard? Something big happened in Cyan Cloud County. What is it? I heard it was the supreme true immortal Feng Cantillon from 400,000 years ago. He managed to escape from the 10 Extremes prison with the help of his remaining subordinates. Now, they are all searching for the remaining members. Someone at the side said in a low voice, I even heard that Duke Yuanzhua of Azure Cloud County had painstakingly cultivated a clone, but it was crippled by someone called Su Zimo and he suffered a huge loss. That's right. I heard that anyone who can provide clues about this Su Zimo will be rewarded handsomely. Trivial discussions could be heard from the crowd in front. Su Zimo blinked. He did not expect the news to spread so quickly. He was still a step too late. What's going on in front? Why are some Stage 1 Earth Immortals being brought to the 2 Celestial Immortals to be checked again? Someone asked in a low voice. Su Zimo focused his attention. Among the crowd, any Stage 1 Earth Immortals would be singled out by the guards on both sides of the hall. The 2 Celestial Immortals would check the storage bags of the Stage 1 Earth Immortals, then let the Stage 1 Earth Immortal's primordial spirit escape in front of them. Su Zimo frowned slightly. His ears twitched. Not long after, he heard a few words. What are we doing? Why are we watching these Stage 1 Earth Immortals? I heard that Su Zimo is a Stage 1 Earth Immortal. But this person knows the art of shapeshifting and can change his appearance. How is that possible? I'm not sure. But even if he can shapeshift, he can only change his physical body, not his primordial spirit. So, as long as he shows his primordial spirit, we will know if this person is Su Zimo. Su Zimo's expression was solemn. He quietly retreated from the crowd. This was not good. He had wanted to use the Sanyu Jade Rui to disguise himself and leave. But now, the teleportation formation was being checked so carefully. If he went forward, he would be exposed even with the Sanyu Jade Rui. This was a dead end. Su Zimo did not dare to take the risk and was prepared to leave Sangyu City. Given the current situation, there was a high chance that the entire city would be on lockdown. By then, even if he wanted to leave the city, it would be difficult for him to do so. Su Zimo headed towards the city gates. Before long, a group of Sangyu city guards appeared in midair. They spread out and each of them held a painting in their hands. One of the guards descended not far away from Su Zimo and walked to the city wall. He opened the painting in his hands and pasted it. On the painting, there was a figure in green robes with a handsome face. It was none other than Su Zimo. There were a few lines of words written at the bottom of the painting. The gist of it was that anyone who could provide clues about this person would be rewarded handsomely. Su Zimo knew that he had already changed his appearance and that he would not be discovered unless he revealed his primordial spirit. However, he still felt a little guilty when he saw the painting. I can't stay here for long. When he saw the guard beside him turn around, Su Zimo raised his head and gulped down a mouthful of strong liquor. He burped and staggered out of the city. Not long after, he disappeared into the crowd. After leaving the city, Su Zimo checked the map and headed east. He walked for 2 days. Along the way, he would occasionally see a group of immortal soldiers from the Dajin Immortal Kingdom searching everywhere. Su Zimo relied on the Sanyu Rui to change his appearance. He had yet to encounter a situation where he had to reveal his primordial spirit and was not in danger. However, this situation would not last long. Su Zimo was also lamenting in his heart. All the lands in the world belonged to the royal family. He had offended Duke Yuanzhua, a member of the royal family of the Dajin Immortal Kingdom. As long as he was in this land, there was almost no place for him. Even if he found a mountain range and opened up a cave abode in seclusion, it would be difficult for him to continue cultivating. There would definitely be people who would find his location. Right then, a few cultivators were walking in a group in the forest beside him. They seemed to be mystic immortals. There were 2 rank 9 mystic immortals, 3 rank 8 mystic immortals and 2 rank 7 mystic immortals. Brother Lu, do you think the astral sect will accept us? Among them, a young cultivator asked. Another older cultivator said in a deep voice, "It should be possible. The astral sect is only a mystic sect. We still have a chance." Astral sect? Su Zimo murmured in thought. Chapter 2043. The city lord of Longyuan City, Su Shi, had once told Su Zimo that the major sects in the divine firmament celestial domain could be roughly divided into 3 levels: mystic, earth, and heaven. There were only 4 sky-level sects in the divine firmament celestial domain: Mountain Sea Sect, Imperial Wind Monastery, Heaven and Earth Academy, and Flying Celestial Sect. Back in the abyss on Longyuan planet, Su Zimo's primordial spirit had entered the dragon corpse and reincarnated. He had come into contact with the elites of these sections. The patriarch of a sky-level sect was an immortal king. Below the heaven level was the earth level. The patriarch of an earth-level sect was usually a perfected immortal. The most common ones were the mystic sections. The patriarch's cultivation was usually a sky immortal. The astral sect was a mystic sect. Su Zimo thought to himself, if he had to hide and be scared out of his wits, it would be better to hide in a sect and cultivate. Mystic sects like this were too common in the Great Jin celestial nation. Even if Duke Yuanzhua chased him all over the place, it was impossible for him to search every disciple in a mystic sect. The guards of the Great Jin celestial nation guarding the major cities and fortresses were already at their limit. It was impossible for them to run into a mystic sect and search wantonly. The most they could do was to pass down a wanted notice. The most important thing for Su Zimo now was to cultivate in seclusion and raise his cultivation level. He had come out of the elemental spirit mine, entered the 10 Extremes prison, and entered the Arch Tomb. He had experienced many battles and witnessed too many fights between elites. He had narrowly escaped death along the way. These experiences were his most precious experiences. Moreover, he had casually picked up along the way and accumulated a large number of spirit pills, elemental spirit stones, and other cultivation resources in his storage bag. He had just broken through to the first level of the Mystician realm. As long as he had enough resources and time, his cultivation level could continue to improve without encountering too many obstacles. Most importantly, Su Zimo's gains for the past year were way too great. Breaking through to the Mystician realm was secondary. He had obtained the Void Lightning Manual in the 10 Extremes prison. Although he had directly inherited the Thunder Emperor's legacy and could comprehend many parts without cultivating, there were still some insights that he needed to comprehend on his own. In the Imperial Tomb, the third side of the prison's suppressing cauldron was repaired. The Black Tortoise Saint's soul had imparted a secret technique to him, but he had yet to cultivate it. He hadn't comprehended the Nirvana Sutra on the third cauldron wall either. There was also the mysterious 3 gems Rui Scepter. This treasure that accompanied Qinglian's true body had countless uses. So far, Su Zimo had only discovered one of these abilities. If he wanted to cultivate these techniques and comprehend their profundities, he would need a long period of secluded cultivation. The path of cultivation was long and arduous. Even if one had great luck, unlimited opportunities, and outstanding talent, it was impossible to achieve success overnight. Although the level of this stellar gate was not high, it was suitable for Su Zimo to lay low and wait for the right opportunity. Thinking of this, Su Zimo carried the wine jar and flew in the air, swaying towards the people who were talking just now. "Hey, you guys over there." Before he got close, Su Zimo shouted from afar, reeking of alcohol as he cursed, "Motherf asterisk cur, I'm talking about you guys." Now that he had changed his appearance, he had to change his words and actions as well so that no one could see through him. The few cultivators over there raised their heads and saw an ugly cultivator who reeked of alcohol walking over from afar. All of them revealed looks of disgust. However, the older cultivator among them had a calm expression as he whispered, "This is an earth immortal. Everyone, be careful and don't anger him." "Greetings, exalted immortal." The older cultivator stopped and bowed towards Su Zimo. Although the other young cultivators were unwilling, they bowed one after another as well. Su Zimo looked at the few people on the ground with a drunken gaze. With an arrogant expression, he burped and asked, "How do I get to the Stellar Gate?" The few young cultivators, especially the female cultivators, lowered their heads in disgust, unwilling to even look at Su Zimo. The older cultivator, however, chuckled. "Exalted immortal, follow this path and head east for more than 2,000 li. You'll reach the Stellar Gate. There are 7 mountains in the Stellar Gate that are the most eye-catching and easy to identify." "Motherf asterisk cur, I'm actually lost." Su Zimo cursed and gulped down another mouthful of strong liquor before heading towards the east in a wobbly manner. The older cultivator heaved a sigh of relief. "Where did this drunkard come from?" "He's disgusting," a young man spat out. "Brother Lu, our clan is rather powerful in the vicinity of Blue Feather City. Why should we be afraid of a drunkard?" A young girl asked. The older cultivator shook his head. When you're out there, you must never underestimate anyone. Don't be fooled by how drunk this person is. Who knows what methods he has and what identity he has? You should know that for so many years, there have always been some big clans in the Sun Moon County who would send their talented clansmen to join the Stellar Gate. This person might be from one of those big clans. Another person asked, Brother Lu, is the rumor about the Stellar Gate true? Is there really a cultivation method that is comparable to a taboo secret manual hidden in the Xian sect? This rumor has been circulating for a long time. I don't know if it's true or not. The older cultivator said, it said that many years ago, a marquis from another region came to the divine firmament continent and started a massacre. Among the immortal kings, no one could defeat him. In the end, the immortal emperor took action and killed him in that mountain range. After that, the terrain of that mountain range changed. 7 mountains rose against the trend and were as tall as the sky. The surrounding mountains stood tall, forming the current Stellar Gate. Since then, there have been all kinds of legends in the divine firmament immortal realm. The most popular one is that the marquis from another region died and left his inheritance in that mountain range. Some people also say that it's a technique called something like the Supreme Profound Spirit. I can't remember the name. The people behind him listened attentively. Someone asked, what happened after that? The older cultivator smiled and said, after that, many cultivators came to this mountain range. They wanted to inherit the legacy of this foreign marquis and search for that illusory cultivation method. I heard that at the beginning, not only the divine firmament immortal realm, but also the 9 clouds immortal realm, even the pure land of bliss and the demon realm sent cultivators to obtain this opportunity. But in the end, they all returned empty-handed. Some people didn't want to leave and guarded that mountain range all day long. Later, it gradually developed into a sect, which is the current Stellar Gate. When the Stellar Gate was first established, there were true immortals overseeing it. But as time passed, the first generation grew old and no one obtained any opportunities, so the number of cultivators coming to Astral Sect dwindled. Until now, only some of the big clans in the Sun Moon County would send some of their disciples here. Actually, they don't have much hope. They just go out to gain experience. Everyone sighed when they heard that. The older cultivator shrugged and shook his head with a smile. Actually, it's just a rumor. I also heard that the marquis who died back then didn't come from another region, but from another realm. Another realm? Everyone was stunned. The older cultivator said, he's not from our heaven realm. He's a marquis from another realm. Chapter 2044. Those cultivators thought that Su Zimo was already far away and could not hear what they were saying. In reality, Su Zimo had the rank 10 Qinglian true body and his hearing was extremely sharp. He could hear their conversation clearly. There's such a rumor? Su Zimo murmured softly. It seemed like this astral sect was not an ordinary Xian sect. However, those rumors did not affect him much. He was only here to sneak into the astral sect and find a quiet place to cultivate in seclusion. After some time, his cultivation would improve and the search outside would gradually ease. Then he would leave the astral sect. A few hours later, Su Zimo's gaze froze. Finally, he saw 7 majestic mountains on the horizon that were almost at the same level as the sky. The astral sect was right ahead. Before long, Su Zimo arrived at the entrance of the astral sect. There were already many cultivators gathered in front of the entrance. At a glance, there were tens of thousands of them. There's actually so many people? Su Zimo frowned. However, on second thought, it was good to have more people. He would not attract attention if he blended in with the crowd. Su Zimo sipped on his liquor and looked around drunkenly. He noticed that among the tens of thousands of cultivators, there were different cultivation realms. Some were Xian immortals and even low-level Xian immortals. Some of them were even Earth immortals. He even saw a few rank 7 Earth immortals in the crowd. Among the group of cultivators, there were some who were gathered together. They had an extraordinary aura and were dressed similarly. They had the same token on them and looked like they were from the same faction. According to the older cultivator, Those cultivators were most likely from the same clan. Su Zimo looked around and saw a rank 3 Xian immortal. He went up and grabbed that rank 3 Xian immortal to a corner. Damn it, you're just a rank 3 Xian immortal and you're here to join the astral sect? Su Zimo cursed as he glared at the man with drunken eyes. This stage 3 mystic immortal was thin and weak, with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. His eyes darted around, but under Su Zimo's palm, he could not move at all. Su Zimo's breath, which reeked of alcohol, splashed onto the man's face, and he almost vomited. However, when he felt Su Zimo's powerful aura, which completely suppressed him, he swallowed back the filth in his mouth. The man's face turned purple, and he was so scared that he was about to cry. He said in a trembling voice, "Immortal, I was wrong. I will leave now." When Su Zimo saw this, a trace of guilt rose in his heart. Originally, he didn't want to reveal any flaws, but he didn't expect to scare this person out of his wits. In an instant, he loosened his grip and put the man down. He snorted coldly, "You're not allowed to leave. Come back here." "But I won't leave. I'll listen to Exalted Immortal." This person's voice was trembling. He was obviously scared out of his wits. He was completely dumbfounded and didn't know whether to leave or not. Su Zimo took out a small origin condensing pill from his storage bag and flicked it to the man. "I'll ask you a few questions. Answer me truthfully. Please ask, Exalted Immortal. I'll tell you everything I know." Although this person said that, he did not dare to take the small origin condensing pill. Su Zimo asked, "Why hasn't the disciple recruitment of the astral sect started yet?" The man hurriedly said, "Exalted Immortal, you may not know this, but the astral sect has a fixed time every time they open their doors for disciple recruitment. It will officially start in a few days." Su Zimo grunted and asked again, "What are the rules for the astral sect's disciple recruitment? Why do they have all kinds of cultivation?" "According to my understanding, the astral sect doesn't look at cultivation realm, but talent and opportunities." This person said, "When the mountain gate is opened, the entrance examination will be held at night on that star observation platform." The man pointed in the direction of the astral sect. Su Zimo turned to look. There was a tall stone platform behind the astral sect's mountain gate. The man continued, "It said that the observatory was refined from a meteorite and can sense the stars in the sky. We will stand on the observatory, and as long as we can stimulate starlight in our body, we will pass the astral sect's test and be accepted into the sect." Su Zimo nodded inwardly. The entrance test of the astral sect was rather unique in that it did not look at cultivation realm. However, Su Zimo was not worried. With his talent, aptitude, bloodline, physique, and primordial spirit, he could definitely pass the test. "All right, there's nothing else for you to do." Su Zimo waved his hand and took out a few small origin condensing pills and threw them to the stage 3 mystic immortal. "This," the man rubbed his palms and wanted to take them, but he was still a little afraid. Although it was just a few small origin condensing pills, it was a rare resource for him. While he was hesitating, Su Zimo had already turned to leave while drinking the strong wine. The man hurriedly picked up the small origin condensing pills with joy. Su Zimo found a random place and lay down without caring about the dust beneath him. He placed the wine jar on his chest and closed his eyes, waiting patiently. In the next few days, more and more cultivators gathered in the astral sect. By the time the disciple recruitment was officially started, there were already 100,000 cultivators gathered outside the mountain gate. That was not a small scale. To outsiders, Su Zimo was drunk most of the time and was sleeping soundly at the side. However, he had already learned about the backgrounds of some of the 100,000 cultivators through listening. That night, the mountain gate was wide open as the stars shone brightly. 3 middle-aged men stood above the mountain gate. They wore robes embroidered with stars and had calm expressions. All 3 of them were heavenly immortals. "I am Leng Guang." The heavenly immortal in the middle looked at the cultivators around him and nodded slightly. "Welcome to the astral sect for the entrance test. I hereby announce that the entrance test has officially begun." "Hold on." Suddenly, a voice sounded from the distance, interrupting heavenly immortal Leng Guang. Immediately after, two figures tore through the air at an extremely fast speed and arrived before him in the blink of an eye. Both of them wore black gold-feathered armor and had cold expressions. Although they were only earth immortals, their auras were not inferior to heavenly immortal Leng Guang in the slightest. Executioners! A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. In the eyes of many cultivators, there was deep respect and fear. In the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, the executioners represented killing and punishment. Although Leng Guang was a heavenly immortal, he did not dare to disobey the orders of the two executioners, or it would be a challenge to the authority of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. Although he was still drunk on the surface, he was secretly wary. Fellow Taoists, may I ask why you're here? Heavenly Immortal Leng Guang did not dare to delay and hurried forward. One of the executioners took out a painting from his storage bag and unfurled it, revealing a portrait. The person in the portrait was dressed in green robes with black hair and delicate features. It was none other than Su Zimo. The Great Gene Immortal Kingdom is hunting down this person with all its might. The executioner looked at the many cultivators beneath his feet and said in a deep voice, "If you see this person, take him down immediately. If anyone has any clues, report it and you'll be rewarded handsomely." Chapter 2045. Celestial Immortal Leng Guang cupped his hands and said, "Don't worry, fellow Taoists. Our astral sect has already heard of this matter. After today, we will make a few copies of this portrait and send them out. If we find any, the astral sect will do our best to suppress this person." One of the executioner Earth Guards nodded slightly and looked around. His gaze swept across the crowd in front of the mountain gate with a sharp gaze. Su Zimo's current appearance was very different from the portrait. He was covered in mud and his face was flushed red, as if he had fallen asleep. The executioner Earth Guard's gazes swept past him and did not stop at all. "Have any of you seen this person?" The executioner Earth Guard on the left shook the portrait in his hand and asked in a deep voice. "Reporting to the exalted immortals, we have been waiting here for 2 days and have not seen this person." A young man in a white robe stepped forward. His black hair reached his shoulders and he had sword-like eyebrows. He had a graceful demeanor as he cupped his hands towards the two executioner Earth Guards and spoke with a smile. Su Zimo opened his drunken eyes slightly and glanced at this person. Just now, he heard that this young man was from the Lin clan, one of the 5 great clans of the Sun Moon County. His name was Lin Ming, a rank 7 Earth Immortal. This time, the Lin clan had brought over 100 clansmen with different cultivation realms. There were Xian Immortals and Earth Immortals. However, Lin Ming's cultivation realm was the highest among these clansmen. Looking at the positions of these clansmen, one could tell that Lin Ming had a high status among these Lin clan clansmen. Lin Ming stood out this time to curry favor with the executioner Earth Guards. However, the two executioner Earth Guards in the air did not appreciate it. They only glanced at Lin Ming indifferently before retracting their gazes. Although the Lin clan's influence in the Sun Moon County was not small, compared to the executioner Earth Guards, the difference was too great. Behind the executioner Earth Guards were the royal family of the Great Gene Celestial Kingdom. On the other side, another young man stood out from the crowd. He held a folding fan in his hand and wore a purple robe. He cupped his hands and said, "Exalted Immortals, please rest assured. If we find this person, the Xie clan will be the first to step forward." The Xie clan was one of the 5 great clans of the Sun Moon County. The one who spoke was Xie Tianfeng, a rank 7 Earth Immortal. As this person stood up, he deliberately glanced at Lin Ming, as if he wanted to compete with him. "If there's any news, report it immediately." An expressionless executioner tossed the scroll in his hand to the celestial immortal of cold light. He then turned and left with the other executioner. Su Zimo breathed a sigh of relief. If the two executioners were not afraid of trouble, they would inspect the 100,000 cultivators outside the mountain gate. On the other side, not long after the two executioners left the astral gate, one of them suddenly asked, "Brother Qin, just now, why aren't you inspecting the 100,000 cultivators outside the astral gate?" That Su Zimo is definitely not among them. The guard surnamed Chen said. How so? The other person was astonished and said, the commander himself said that Su Zimo knows the art of countless transformations. He can change his appearance and become another person. The executioner surnamed Chen asked, then let me ask you, how long can a rank 9 heavenly immortal maintain myriad transformations? That depends on the strength of the Yuan spirit. Even if it's condensed, it won't last long. Myriad transformations is, after all, a peerless ability. Maintaining it is too taxing on the Yuan spirit. The other person said. The executioner surnamed Chen said, then that's it. That Su Zimo is only a rank 1 earth immortal. Even if he knows myriad transformations, how long can he last? There are 100,000 cultivators outside the astral gate. If he can't hold on, he'll be exposed long ago. The other person came to a realization and praised, Brother Chen is wise. The executioner surnamed Chen said, this is all experience. You've just joined the executioner, so take your time to learn. If you encounter anyone, you have to carefully inspect them from head to toe. Won't we tire ourselves to death? The astral gate. After the 2 executioners left, the celestial immortal of cold light ordered the astral gate disciples to send the scroll down and have someone copy it as soon as possible. On the other side, his abbot's entrance trial had already begun. Just as the rank 3 mystic immortal had said, the astral gate's entrance trial was rather simple. There were no requirements for the cultivator's cultivation. Everyone stood on the observatory, and as long as starlight appeared on their bodies within 10 breaths, they would pass the trial. Although there were 100,000 cultivators outside the mountain gate. However, the observatory was made of meteorite and was spacious enough to hold more than 100 people at the same time with more than enough space to spare. According to the normal speed, more than 30,000 people could be tested in an hour. Before daybreak, these 100,000 people would finish the trial at the same time. Su Zimo was in no hurry to go up. Instead, he stood among the crowd and paid attention to the observatory's movements. With 100 people on the observatory at the same time, there weren't many who could actually trigger starlight. Sometimes only 1 or 2 people could. Sometimes, there wasn't even a single starlight among the 100. Not long after, a group of cultivators dressed similarly headed for the observatory. The word, Wang, was written on the medallion at their waists. It was the Wang clan, one of the 5 great clans. The leader of the Wang clansmen was Wang Yu. Although his looks were ordinary, he had a calm expression. He had short hair without a beard, and his eyes were like torches. He looked very capable and was a rank 6 earthly immortal. Behind him were the Wang clansmen, with mystic immortals making up the majority. More than 100 Wang clansmen stood on the observatory and looked up at the sky. In just a breath, faint starlight appeared on Wang Yu's body. As time passed, the starlight on Wang Yu's body grew brighter and brighter. It even condensed into a thick beam of light that slowly extended from his head to the sky. Celestial immortal cold light nodded slightly. The starlight is 10 feet away from the body. That's already not bad. In the 3rd breath, the starlight beam above Wang Yu's head rose again, reaching a height of 20 feet. This scene caused a series of exclamations. I heard that the brighter the starlight, the better the talent. For someone to be able to condense a beam of light like this, he's definitely someone with extraordinary talent. What does it have to do with wanting to trigger starlight? A cultivator who had failed asked in frustration. I heard that it might have something to do with bloodline. No matter what, when you're on the observatory, you just have to activate your primordial spirit and bloodline without holding back. While everyone was discussing, 10 breaths had passed. The starlight above Wang Yu's head had reached a height of 40 feet. Among the 50,000 people who had passed the trial, Wang Yu was the first to condense a beam of light that reached 40 feet. Not bad. 40 feet is already a rare genius. Besides celestial immortal cold light, a yellow-robed Taoist nodded slightly with a smile. On the other side, an old man lamented. I heard that when the astral sect was first established, all the geniuses of the celestial realm gathered here. There were even people who could condense starlight beams of 80 or 90 feet. It's a pity that all of this has become a legend. Chapter 2046. After 10 breaths of time, more than half of the Wang clan cultivators had activated starlight from their bodies and stayed in the astral sect. Xie Tianfeng couldn't hold himself back and shouted, "I'll do it." With that, Xie Tianfeng led the Xie clan members up to the star observation platform. Looking at the posture of the 5 great clans, they probably had a lot of open and secret struggles. Meeting in the astral sect this time, it was inevitable that they would compete. Sure enough, starlight emerged from Xie Tianfeng's body first. In the 4th breath, the starlight left his body and gradually condensed into a beam of light around him, slowly rising towards the sky. Looking at this posture, Xie Tianfeng's starlight beam seems to be one size smaller than Wang Yu's. I wonder how high it will reach in the end. I heard that the Wang clan's ancestor once obtained a divine body tempering technique. In terms of physique and bloodline, this Xie Tianfeng is probably slightly inferior. Su Zimo listened for so long and had more or less understood. If one's bloodline was strong, the starlight that was activated would not only be shockingly high, but the range would also be extremely wide, and the light would be dazzling. For example, the starlight that Wang Yu condensed just now had a range of 1.5 people. And this Xie Tianfeng's starlight beam only wrapped around him. In the blink of an eye, 10 breaths passed. Xie Tianfeng's starlight beam only reached 3 feet, clearly a head lower than Wang Yu's. Lin Ming smiled and said, "Brother Xie's light beam doesn't seem to be as high as Brother Wang Yu's." Xie Tianfeng's face was a bit ugly. He snorted and looked at Lin Ming, Wang Yu, and the rest not far away. "Today is just the entrance trial. It's nothing. After we enter the sect, just wait and see." With that, Xie Tianfeng led the Xie clan members down the star observation platform. More than half of the Xie clan cultivators activated starlight and entered the astral sect. Not long after, Lin Ming led the cultivators onto the astral observatory. Unsurprisingly, Lin Ming also activated starlight beams. Although his starlight beam had exceeded 3 zhang, it was still unable to reach a height of 4 zhang. So far, Wang Yu was still the highest. "Junior sister Shangguan, senior brother Zhua, it's your turn?" Lin Ming cupped his hands towards the other 2 forces. His gaze landed on junior sister Shangguan. His gaze became somewhat heated, but he quickly restrained himself. The Zhua clan and the Shangguan clan were the other 2 of the 5 great clans in the Sun Moon County. The person in the lead of the Zhua clan wore a plain-colored long robe. His figure was tall and straight, and he possessed a handsome appearance. His facial features were distinct, and his eyes were deep. In terms of bearing, he obviously surpassed Lin Ming, Xie Tianfeng, and Wang Yu. Zhua Zhuxian, a level 8 Earth Immortal. On the other side, the leader of the Shangguan clan was a young lady, Shangguan Qian. She was also a level 8 Earth Immortal. The 2 of them stood side by side. Looking from afar, they looked like a perfect match made in heaven. Lin Ming and Xie Tianfeng's faces revealed their displeasure. "Junior sister Shangguan, you go first?" Zhua Zhuxian smiled and looked at Shangguan Qian. His eyes were gentle as he asked. "After you, senior brother Zhua." Shangguan Qian looked indifferent and declined. "All right." Zhua Zhuxian smiled faintly and said, "I won't decline." After saying that, Zhua Zhuxian tidied his clothes and led the people behind him to the stargazing platform. The moment Zhua Zhuxian stepped onto the stargazing platform, spots of starlight appeared in his body. It looked even brighter than Wang Yu's. Starlight appeared in Zhua Zhuxian's body and soon condensed into a starlight beam that could accommodate 2 people. The starlight beam shot into the sky. 10 feet, 20 feet. When it reached 40 feet, the speed of the starlight beam's ascent gradually slowed down. Everyone stared at the scene unblinkingly and held their breaths. The eyes of Heaven Immortal Leng Guang and the other 2 from the astral sect shone brightly. Could it be that this kid is going to break through 50 feet? It's very difficult. How many years has it been since we last saw a 50-feet starlight beam? 10 breaths of time passed in the blink of an eye. Just when everyone thought that Zhua Zhuxian's starlight beam had reached its limit, Zhua Zhuxian howled. Zhua Zhuxian looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. The blood in his body burst out, and the sound of waves could be heard. Then, the starlight beam around him also increased by an inch and broke through to 50 feet. Exclamations came from the crowd. Cold Light Celestial Immortal and the other two could not help but applaud and laugh. Xie Tianfeng sneered and said, "He really knows how to show off." Lin Ming's face was also a little gloomy. He glanced at Shangguan Qian, who was not far away. Shangguan Qian looked at the 50 feet starlight beam above Zhuo Zhuxuan's head. Her eyes lit up and she nodded with a smile. Zhuo Zhuxian led the people down from the stargazing platform and returned to Shangguan Qian's side. He smiled and said, "Junior sister Shangguan, it's your turn. Don't feel pressured." Shangguan Qian nodded and led the people behind her to the stargazing platform. On the other side, Su Zimo saw that the number of people who passed the trial was almost there. He did not wait any longer and walked toward the stargazing platform. He wanted to hide in the Stellaris sect and cultivate in seclusion quietly. He could not be too high profile. If he attracted the attention of others, he would definitely not have peace. While thinking, he had already arrived at the stargazing platform and jumped up. Where did this drunkard come from? Get down. Before Su Zimo's figure landed, a figure rushed over from the side and kicked at Su Zimo without mercy. Su Zimo sneered in his heart. The person who attacked was only a stage 9 mystic immortal. However, he was fearless because he was from the Shangguan clan. Such a kick was full of flaws. Su Zimo had countless methods to cripple this person on the spot. However, he did not want to attract attention. He staggered and swayed a few times. It seemed like a coincidence, but he mysteriously avoided the kick of the Shangguan clan member. Su Zimo was drunk and did not realize it. He continued to walk toward the stargazing platform. The Shangguan clansman's foot missed, and he almost couldn't stop himself from falling off the stargazing platform. By the time he reacted, Su Zimo had already arrived at the center of the stargazing platform. Su Zimo's plan was clear. These were all members of the Shangguan clan and many of them could activate starlight. If he mixed in with them, even if starlight appeared, he would not attract attention. Furthermore, everyone's attention would definitely be on Shangguan Qian. No one would pay attention to a drunkard like him. Su Zimo reeked of alcohol. When he arrived in the crowd, the members of the Shangguan clan revealed looks of disgust and avoided him. Some of the members of the Shangguan clan could not hold it in and walked towards Su Zimo with unfriendly expressions. They even wanted to throw Su Zimo off the stargazing platform. Chapter 2047. Motherf ****. Su Zimo glared at the Shangguan clansmen that were charging over with his drunken eyes and shouted intentionally, "Why? Is the Shangguan clan that domineering? Does the observatory belong to the Shangguan clan now?" Everyone else was naturally just watching the show. However, Heaven Immortal Cold Light and the other two from Stellar Sect frowned slightly. Heaven Immortal Cold Light coughed gently. Even though the Shangguan clan was one of the major clans of Sun Moon County, they could not chase people away from the observatory casually under his watch. The Shangguan clansmen had terrible expressions and were stuck in a dilemma. That's enough. Right then, a cold voice sounded. Shangguan Qian was walking over and waved her hand casually. "You guys can disperse and prepare for the trial." When the Shangguan clansmen heard that, they glared at Su Zimo before dispersing. Shangguan Qian looked at Su Zimo indifferently and stood not far away from him. There were already more than 100 people on the observatory. Heaven Immortal Cold Light channeled his spirit consciousness and conjured a hand seal, causing a spirit light to shoot out from his fingertip that entered the observatory. The trial had begun. The many cultivators on the observatory hurriedly channeled their blood chi and released their spirit consciousnesses, looking up into the starry skies in an attempt to establish a connection with the stars and activate their starlight. Su Zimo was the only one who was trying his best to calm his blood chi and compose himself like an old monk in a meditative state, afraid that he would cause too much of a commotion. Since he wanted to enter Stellar Sect and lay low, he could not be too high profile. If the observatory was truly related to bloodlines, he would definitely trigger an intense reaction from the observatory the moment he activated Qinglian's bloodline. At that time, if he could truly condense a starlight beam that was 20 feet or 80 feet tall, he would become the center of attention. Therefore, while the Shangguan clansmen were channeling their blood qi with all their might, Su Zimo was still nonchalant and intoxicated as though he could fall asleep at any moment. On the other side, Shangguan Qian did not disappoint either. The starlight beam she condensed was even larger than Zhuoxuan's, and in the fifth breath, it had already exceeded 40 feet tall. If nothing went wrong, she could reach 50 feet or even higher. Not bad, not bad. Heaven Immortal Cold Light smiled and nodded slightly. There are 2 starlight beams that reached 50 feet this time. They are considered rare geniuses. It's a pity that they don't belong to our stellar sect. The old man beside him sighed softly. The 3 of them knew that those geniuses from the 5 clans of Sun Moon County had joined stellar sect for the sake of that illusory legend back then. One day, those geniuses would have to leave. After all, the astral sect was only a black sect. If these geniuses wanted to achieve greater things, they would definitely try to enter an earth sect. In the blink of an eye, 8 breaths. The starlight around Shangguan Qian's body had also reached a height of 5 feet. There were still 2 breaths left. Although Shangguan Qian couldn't break through to 6 feet, she could still climb up a little. Almost everyone eyes, calm. No one noticed that Su Zimo, who was not far away from her, was frowning in deep thought. Su Zimo controlled himself well and did not release any starlight from his body. But seeing that there were only 2 breaths left and the trial was about to end, he cautiously tried to circulate a bit of his bloodline. At that moment, Su Zimo felt a sense of danger. He saw a huge light beam coming at him from the corner of his eye. Shangguan Qian. Just now, although she did not say anything, she was disgusted to see an ugly man who reeked of alcohol among the Shangguan clansmen. Seeing that the trial was about to end, Shangguan Qian was ready to teach that drunkard a lesson. Her method was simple and she did not even have to do it herself. In Shangguan Qian's eyes, the drunkard was covered in dust and reeked of alcohol. She was afraid that she would dirty herself if she did it. The starlight beam around Shangguan Qian could fuse with more than 2 people and had a large range. As long as she came to the drunkard's side, she could easily send him flying with the starlight beam she condensed through the stargazing platform. Letting the drunkard fall from the stargazing platform could be considered a lesson for him. Su Zimo naturally did not know what Shangguan Qian was thinking. But he did not want to be sent flying when he saw someone rushing over. After all, he had not passed the trial. Su Zimo subconsciously stabilized his body. His feet seemed to have grown roots and were firmly fixed on the stargazing platform. Shangguan Qian's starlight beam collided with Su Zimo's Qinglian real body. Su Zimo did not move. Su Zimo's body gradually merged into the starlight beam. Originally, Su Zimo tried his best to control Qinglian's bloodline and not let it leak. But now, the starlight beam enveloped Qinglian's real body and starlight filled her body. The starlight could not help but come into contact with Qinglian's bloodline. Although the starlight beam was condensed by Shangguan Qian, it was also formed by the connection between the stargazing platform and the firmament. Now that the starlight sensed Qinglian's bloodline, it was equivalent to the stargazing platform sensing it as well. Instantly, the world shook and the weather changed. Immediately after, a bedazzling starlight beam burst forth from Su Zimo's body. The range of the starlight beam was so large that it covered the entire stargazing platform. Initially, more than 100 Shangguan clansmen stood on the stargazing platform. At that moment, all of them were swept down from the stargazing platform by the starlight beam that burst forth from Su Zimo's body. Even Shangguan Qian did not avoid it. She did not know what happened at all. She only felt that she had collided with the drunkard. Thereafter, an incomparably terrifying power seemed to have burst forth from the drunkard's body and sent her flying. She wanted to open her eyes to take a look. However, her vision was shrouded by a bedazzling brilliance. It was white and she could not see anything. The starlight was way too strong. She was not the only one. Many cultivators who were watching in front of the door were blinded as well. Everyone either closed their eyes or lowered their heads to avoid it. Exclamations could be heard from the crowd. Some of the cultivators who were slower in dodging were blinded by the powerful starlight that burst forth from the stargazing platform, causing tears to flow down their faces. not to mention the mystic immortals and earth immortals present. Chapter 2048. Celestial immortal Leng Guang could see a huge beam of starlight shooting into the sky from the observatory. Above the firmament, millions of stars twinkled, sprinkling down endless starlight that connected with the beam of starlight. A height of a few dozen feet was no longer enough to measure the beam of starlight. The beam of light seemed to have connected with heaven and earth, establishing a connection with the stars. How is this possible? What's going on? Celestial immortal Leng Guang shook his head and blinked hard. For a moment, he even thought that the scene in front of him was just his imagination. On the observatory, even Su Zimo, who was the instigator of such a violent reaction, was shocked. He tried his best to restrain himself and be careful, hoping to keep a low profile and not attract the attention of others. But he did not expect that Qinglian's bloodline would trigger such a violent reaction from the observatory. In fact, the reason for such a strong reaction was not only because of Qinglian's bloodline, but more importantly, because of the two divine stones in Su Zimo's eyes, candlelight and nether glow. After the beam of starlight shot out, Su Zimo knew that the commotion this time was too big. He was also burning with anxiety. If the beam of starlight did not disappear, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. He would definitely not be able to stay in the astral sect any longer. At that moment, there was a slight change in Su Zimo's sea of consciousness. Qinglian's primordial spirit held the tri-gem jade Rui as she sat on the lotus throne of creation. At that moment, the 300 jade Rui in Qinglian's primordial spirit's hand seemed to have sensed something and suddenly trembled. Then, the endless starlight that surrounded him seemed to have found a place to go, and all of them poured into his sea of consciousness through the top of his head. The 300 jade Rui left the palm of Qinglian's primordial spirit and came to the air above his sea of consciousness, trembling slightly. On the auspicious cloud at the head of the tri-gem jade Rui, there was a dim pearl embedded. Under the gaze of Qinglian's primordial spirit, the endless starlight all poured into one of the three pearls. The pearl began to emit a faint light. If one looked at it carefully, they could vaguely see that there seemed to be some starlight floating in the bead, like tiny stars. Su Zimo was dumbfounded. According to Qinglian's inherited memories, the three pearls on the head of the tri-precious jade scepter did indeed have a great origin. They were called the limitless pearls. The three precious pearls were condensed from the essence of the sun, moon, and star within the chaos, and they corresponded to the heavens, the earth, and the man. They were born from the will of the heavens and were born together with the Tao. The so-called three treasures of the three precious jade Rui actually referred to these three limitless treasured beads. Although Su Zimo knew the origin of these three everlasting jewels, he had yet to find out how to activate them, much less how to use them. This sudden turn of events gave Su Zimo a flash of inspiration. If the three limitless treasured beads were condensed from the essence of the sun, moon, and star, then the pearl just now that was absorbing the starlight was most likely a star pearl. Su Zimo had a hunch that he might have inadvertently discovered another mystery of the tri-precious jade scepter. However, now was not the time to study this treasure. He was now on the star observation platform. After causing such a huge commotion, the most important thing was to escape unscathed without attracting too much attention. Originally, Su Zimo planned to take advantage of the chaos to leave. However, now that the starlight around him had been absorbed by the limitless treasured bead on the tri-precious jade scepter, there were no more anomalies. He could try to bluff his way through. On the other side, the cold light heaven immortal shook his head and tried his best to stay awake. When he opened his eyes again, he was stunned on the spot with his mouth wide open, somewhat dumbfounded. The dazzling and blazing starlight beam from just now had actually disappeared. It was as if what he saw just now was just an illusion. The cold light heaven immortal frowned. There was only a drunkard left on the star observation platform, sitting on the spot. The wine jar had been shattered and the wine spilled all over his body. His expression was blank, as if he was also frightened. The other two heaven immortals also came to their senses and subconsciously asked, "What's going on? What happened just now?" "I don't know." The cold light heaven immortal shook his head. He did not know how to explain or describe it. Could it have something to do with this person? The cold light heaven immortal stared at the drunkard on the star observation platform for a long time. His divine consciousness scanned the drunkard several times but did not find anything unusual. This drunkard was just an ordinary first-stage Earth immortal. After a while, the other cultivators gradually recovered. The Shangguan clansmen who had fallen around the star observation platform were dizzy from the fall. By the time they recovered, the phenomenon from before had already disappeared. They did not know what happened at all. They only saw a burst of light beside them and they were sent flying. What happened? I don't know. Just now, something seemed to have exploded on the star observation platform and there was a huge burst of light. It was so bright that my eyes hurt and I couldn't see anything clearly. There was a wave of discussion in the crowd. Shangguan Qian frowned and stared at the drunkard on the star observation platform thoughtfully. Others did not know what happened at that moment. However, she could clearly feel that the terrifying power and the dazzling starlight should have burst out from the drunkard's body. However, this drunkard looked so ordinary. How could he cause such a huge reaction from the star observation platform? Junior Sister Shangguan, how are you? At this moment, a gentle voice sounded. Zhuozhu Xian came to her side and reached out his hand to help her up gently. I'm fine. Shangguan Qian shook her head and replied absent-mindedly. Her thoughts were still on the drunkard on the star observation platform. On the other side, Xie Tianfeng and Lin Ming were further away. They had just rushed over and wanted to curry favor with Shangguan Qian, but Zhuozhu Xian beat them to it. Lin Ming said in a deep voice, Junior Sister Shangguan, was it that drunkard who caused the commotion and injured you? I'll help you teach him a lesson. I'll go too. Xie Tianfeng also said, I've long disliked that drunkard. In fact, the two of them only wanted to show off in front of Shangguan Qian and find someone to vent her anger on for her. However, even they themselves didn't know that they had guessed correctly. At this moment, figures rose from the star cluster sect. In a short while, dozens of figures rushed over at lightning speed. Most of them were old. In the blink of an eye, they arrived above the mountain gate. The person in the lead had a dignified bearing. His hair was gray and he held a horsetail whisk in his hand. His eyes were bright and sharp, and his aura was powerful. The person who came was the patriarch of the Star Cluster sect, Level 9 Celestial Immortal Xingyu. The commotion on the star observation platform caused the Star Cluster sect to shake. Countless elders and grand elders who were in seclusion came out. Chapter 2049. What's going on? Xingyu, patriarch of the astral sect, looked at Celestial Immortal Cold Light and the other two and asked in a deep voice. Celestial Immortal Cold Light hesitated and said, I don't know why, but a huge beam of starlight suddenly erupted from the observatory and swept all the cultivators off the platform. As he spoke, Celestial Immortal Cold Light looked at the drunkard on the observatory. Now, the drunkard was the only one left on the observatory. Damn it! The drunkard seemed to have just come to his senses. His eyes were wide open as he kept stomping on the observatory while cursing, What the hell is this thing? There must be something wrong with the observatory. It gave me a fright. Xingyu Patriarch and the elders behind him also glanced at Su Zimo, but found nothing unusual. Moreover, none of them believed that such a huge commotion just now was caused by a first-tier Earth immortal. Celestial Immortal Cold Light continued, There was a strange phenomenon just now. The stars in the sky descended, and billions of starlight gathered together and connected with that beam of starlight, but, after a short pause, Celestial Immortal Cold Light continued, but not long after, maybe just 1 or 2 breaths, that beam of starlight suddenly disappeared. Disappeared? Xingyu Patriarch frowned slightly. In fact, they didn't see what happened at the gate. They only came out of seclusion after sensing a huge energy fluctuation and a flash of bright light. As for the cultivators around the gate, they were all blinded by the dazzling starlight and couldn't see what happened. Celestial Immortal Cold Light was the only one who saw it clearly. But the whole process was too short. Even if he saw it clearly, he was still confused and in disbelief. Could there really be a problem with the observatory? It seemed that such a phenomenon had never appeared in the records of the astral sect. Celestial immortal Cold Light also didn't believe that someone's bloodline could cause such a phenomenon. When the astral sect was first established, the geniuses from all over the celestial realm were at most 80 or 90 feet starlight. That beam of starlight just now directly connected with heaven and earth. How could such a phenomenon be caused by human strength? Xingyu Patriarch pondered for a while and said, "Cold Light, continue to preside over the trial. I'll stay here and watch." "All right." Cold Light Celestial Immortal nodded and raised his voice. "Just now, cultivators with starlight emerging from their bodies on the star observation platform, come to me and receive your sect token." Lin Ming and Xie Tianfeng originally wanted to find trouble with Su Zimo, but seeing that the patriarch of the astral sect was here, they could only give up for the time being. Shangguan Qian and dozens of Shangguan clansmen headed towards Cold Light Celestial Immortal. Su Zimo leaped off the stargazing platform and walked unsteadily towards Heaven Immortal Cold Ray. The dozens of clansmen of the Shangguan clan received their respective sect tokens. In the astral sect, profound immortals could only be regarded as outer disciples. They did not have their own abode to cultivate in, and could only find their own residence in the mountains of the astral sect. If one reached the earthly immortal realm, they could open up their own cave abode on the 7 main peaks of the astral sect, or choose an empty cave abode of a predecessor as their own. Su Zimo came before Cold Light Celestial Immortal without the slightest fear. He casually cupped his hands and casually extended his palm, asking for his sect token. His every move had to be consistent with his identity as a drunkard. There could not be too big of a difference. Cold Light Celestial Immortal frowned and glanced at Su Zimo, saying faintly, "According to my observation, just now, there doesn't seem to be any starlight emerging from your body." Lin Ming pointed to the abode in front of him and said with a faint smile, "That drunkard is inside. Brother Xie, please." Xie Tianfeng was not a fool and immediately sensed that there was something fishy. He narrowed his eyes slightly and spread out his divine sense to explore the surroundings of the abode. He could not help but frown and murmur, "Array formation?" Lin Ming also snorted coldly and said, "This drunkard is not simple. He set up such an array formation in 3 days." Wu Dao's original body had once found many spatial nodes of Tianhuang mainland and left Tianhuang mainland to head to other small worlds in search of countless rare treasures that could not be found in Tianhuang mainland. He would then get Momo to send them over for Ji Yaoxue to consume. However, Ji Yaoxue's lifespan did not show any signs of increasing and her cultivation realm was stagnant as well. Void reversions had a lifespan of 5,000 years. By now, Ji Yaoxue should only have about 2,000 years left in her lifespan. Wu Dao's original body stood silently for a long time before sighing and returning to his house to cultivate in seclusion. After all these years of cultivation, he had already exhausted all the spirit essence stones he obtained from the experts of the upper world. Another fate wheel was added behind him and there were now 6 fate wheels. Through his connection with Qinglian's true body, Wu Dao's original body could roughly deduce that the realm of 6 fate wheels had already reached the level of an earth immortal in terms of strength. Time flew like an arrow and the sun and moon flew like a shuttle. After Su Zimo reached the 2nd level of Earth Origin Realm, he continued his seclusion. In the 516th year, Su Zimo made another breakthrough and reached the 3rd level of Earth Origin Realm. Su Zimo continued his seclusion. The black crow flew and the rabbit flew. The stars moved. Another few hundred years passed. On this day, it had been more than 1,300 years since Su Zimo entered seclusion in Stellaris sect. In fact, some people even said that Wangu Wu Huang's creation of the Wu Dao was the Emperor Luo's inheritance of his predecessors, pushing Wu Dao to its peak. It's the Emperor Luo. The Emperor Luo is here. When the cultivators of the Kunlun race and the thousands of races below caught sight of the figure in midair, they were excited and cheered. The atmosphere in Heavenly Mystery Palace was tense. Many emperors and patriarchs who were discussing how to fight sensed something as well and arrived in midair, looking towards the west. In the skies above Kunlun ruins stood a dazzling figure that no one could ignore. The Emperor Luo has appeared. Storyteller heaved a sigh of relief. Ji Qingtian nodded slightly as well. With the Emperor Luo around, Tianhuang mainland will have a fighting chance. The immortal martial sect led by the Emperor Luo alone is enough for the Protoss to handle. Right then, in the skies above Kunlun ruins, the Emperor Luo waved his sleeves gently and an exquisite palace appeared. It expanded continuously and hovered in midair, emitting an incomparably domineering aura. "It's the Emperor Luo's immortal martial palace," the Cloud Dragon Emperor said. "By the looks of it, the cultivators of immortal martial sect should all be in the immortal martial palace. However, I wonder what the Emperor Luo's intentions are." Just as the crowd was discussing amongst themselves, the cultivators within the immortal martial palace began to walk out one after another. However, many of the cultivators had ugly expressions on their faces. Their willpower was low, and they looked like they had come to a realization. "Strange." Suddenly, Little Fatty mumbled, "There seem to be much fewer experts in immortal martial sect." The others noticed this as well. Some of the patriarchs and emperors of immortal martial sect did not appear and their whereabouts were unknown. Perhaps the Emperor Luo has a backup plan? Shijian guessed. Due to the distance, the experts of Heavenly Mystery Palace could not see the expressions of the cultivators in the immortal martial palace. "Let's pass down the order and gather the experts of the sect. We'll move as soon as possible and head to Kunlun ruins to fight the Protoss," the storyteller said in a deep voice. "All right." Many experts tore through the void and returned to their respective sections. They gathered the experts of their sects and headed towards Kunlun ruins. At the same time, in the skies above Kunlun ruins, the Emperor Luo looked at the immortal martial sect cultivators who walked out and said indifferently, "Let's do it." Soon, a group of cultivators stood out from the crowd and headed towards the battlefield with a murderous aura. When the Kunlun people saw this, they were invigorated. The Emperor Luo looked at the remaining immortal martial sect cultivators and shook his head. "Today is a foregone conclusion. You guys have no way out. The only way to survive is to listen to my orders." With that, the Emperor Luo's figure flashed and arrived above the battlefield of the emperors. The three emperors of the Kunlun race were already somewhat overwhelmed by the charge of the young Shenhuang. She looked at the many Wu Dao experts of the immortal martial sect and said in a low voice, "Among you, how many of you don't have spiritual roots? Because of Wu Huang's Dao, you were able to enter the cultivation world and achieve what you have today?" The people of the immortal martial sect were silent. The 6 emperors averted their eyes. They didn't even dare to look at the people of Infinite Wasteland Domain. Lung Ro continued, "As people of Infinite Wasteland Domain and cultivators of the Wu Dao, how can you not distinguish between right and wrong and help the evildoer?" A trace of restlessness appeared in the immortal martial sect, but it wasn't obvious. Although the hearts of many cultivators were shaken, under Lo's pressure, no one dared to stand out. The immortal martial sect's Emperor Feng sighed and said, "I know what you said is right. But I can achieve what I have today because of Emperor Luo's guidance." Emperor Feng lowered his head and couldn't continue. His heart was in great torment. Another Crimson Emperor's expression dimmed. He also said, "It's not that we don't know what's right and wrong, but Emperor Luo saved my life back then. Lo, what are you still dawdling for?" At this moment, the young Protoss Emperor led the Protoss army and galloped over. Thousands of horses galloped, and their aura was like a rainbow. At this moment, the Protoss had already sent 8 emperors to Infinite Wasteland Domain. Lo looked at the people of Infinite Wasteland Domain with a cold expression. He slowly raised his hand and was about to give the order. A great battle was about to break out. Chapter 2057. At this moment, the Protoss army had also charged over. Their iron hooves were like thunder, bones flew everywhere, and blood chi soared into the sky. "Kill!" The Azure Dragon Emperor gave the order. The cultivators of Tianhuang region and the Protoss army were like 2 huge waves, colliding fiercely, causing countless blood flowers to splatter. In the instant of the collision, countless living beings died on the spot. However, the cultivators of Tianhuang region were fearless. Regardless of their cultivation level, regardless of their combat strength, at this moment, they all condensed into an unshakable will. Fresh blood, broken limbs, magic treasures, abilities, corpses, heads, everywhere one looked, there was blood everywhere. It was incomparably tragic. Although the number of emperors on Tianhuang region's side was slightly higher, with over 20 of them against the 8 emperors of the Protoss, they still couldn't gain the upper hand at all. And the 6 emperors of the immortal martial sect besieging Lo Lo was also surrounded by danger. Lo Lo dual cultivated immortal and martial arts, and also comprehended 6 supreme abilities. His combat strength was heaven-defying. And of the 6 emperors of the immortal martial sect, only the Crimson Emperor and Feng Huang comprehended 5 supreme abilities. As for the other 4, one of them had comprehended 4 rare divine abilities, 2 of them had comprehended 3 rare divine abilities, and one of them had only comprehended 2. The difference in combat strength between the 4 was great. Only the Crimson Emperor and Feng Huang could barely fight Lo Lo. The remaining 4 emperors couldn't withstand Lo Lo's attacks at all. The battle only lasted for 7 to 8 breaths, and the emperor who comprehended 2 supreme abilities was killed by Lo Lo on the spot, his body and Dao vanishing. After a while, another emperor of the immortal martial sect died. And Lo Lo walked leisurely between the remaining 4 emperors of the immortal martial sect with ease. In Lo Lo's palm, an immortal kingdom condensed, directly imprisoning an emperor within. In the divine kingdom, golden light flashed. In the blink of an eye, an emperor was refined, his body and Dao vanishing. Divine kingdom in the palm, the supreme ability of the Protoss. The difference was too great. The current Lo Lo had half of the Protoss bloodline in his veins. He cultivated both immortal and martial arts, and he had comprehended 6 supreme theurgies. His combat prowess was comparable to that of the human emperor. Even when 6 sovereigns surrounded him, he still managed to kill 3 of them. Crimson Sovereign, Peak Sovereign, I'll give you 2 another chance. Lo Lo said as he fought with the 3 of them, if you submit to me now, I can let bygones be bygones. If Lo Lo wanted to rule Tianhuang mainland in the future, he would also lack some helpers. The Crimson Sovereign and the Peak Sovereign had both comprehended 5 supreme divine arts. Lo Lo couldn't bear to see this happen and wanted to make use of the 2 of them. Lo Lo, the 2 of us have made up our minds today. You don't have to persuade us anymore. The Crimson Sovereign said, you are cultivating the Wu Dao. We hope that you can rein in the horse at the edge of the cliff and turn back in time to fight against the Protoss together with the living beings of Heaven Wasteland. As Lo Lo sneered, he waved his hand and killed another person. Of the 6 sovereigns of the immortal martial sect, only the Crimson Sovereign and the Peak Sovereign were left. I'll ask you guys again, submit or die. Lo Lo's expression darkened as he said slowly, don't blame me for not giving you guys a chance. Right then, a voice suddenly sounded from the battlefield of Kunlun ruins. It seemed to come from the clouds and was high and mighty, looking down on all living beings. To think that you guys haven't taken down Tianhuang mainland yet. You guys are too slow. In the sky above Kunlun ruins, a golden figure appeared. His body shone with a resplendent golden light like a scorching sun. The emperors merely took a glance and felt a piercing pain in their eyes. They could not even see that person's appearance clearly. However, after that figure appeared in Kunlun ruins, the entire Tianhuang mainland trembled and swayed, letting out a series of sorrowful cries. It was as though even Tianhuang mainland could not withstand that person's aura. Oh, to think that such a strong will would be condensed. Interesting. The golden figure chuckled. God said that there must be light. Right then at the end of Kunlun ruins, the golden figure spoke slowly. Instantly, a golden speck of light descended from the battlefield of the emperors and suddenly bloomed. The golden lights emitted a terrifying aura and were sharp like golden spears. They easily broke through the divine powers and secret skills of the emperors of Tianhuang mainland and pierced through their bodies. The sound of sharp weapons tearing through flesh could be heard on the battlefield. It was a shocking sight for emperors to bleed. The emperors of Tianhuang mainland were enveloped by the golden light. Those who were weak died on the spot. Even the Blue Dragon Emperor, Storyteller, and the other emperors who had comprehended 4 or 5 peerless divine powers were pierced by the golden light. Blood flowed from their wounds and they fell from midair. Their auras were weak and their expressions were dispirited. The golden light contained a strange force that their bloodlines and mystical abilities were unable to get rid of. The emperors of Tianhuang mainland were either dead or injured. They were all crippled by a single move from the golden figure. The Crimson Emperor and Feng Huang were already in pools of blood. The two of them were unlucky and their heads were pierced by the golden light. Their essence spirits were shattered and they could no longer survive. The golden figure stepped on the void and walked over slowly. Although it seemed slow, it arrived in the blink of an eye. The golden figure took a step forward and all the cultivators of Tianhuang mainland within the range of his step died, turning into blood mists. Although that step did not seem large, all the cultivators in the area could not escape. With a single step, hundreds of thousands of living beings of Tianhuang mainland turned into dust beneath the golden figure. Life and death were only a single step apart. Be it the Dharma Daojun or the mighty figure patriarchs, no one could escape from the golden figure's footsteps. The golden figure took a second step. Another hundreds of thousands of living beings of Tianhuang mainland fell. A third step. The living beings of Tianhuang mainland fell one after another like weeds that were reaped by a sickle. None of them could stand up. A large bloody zone appeared between the Tianhuang mainland army and the Protoss army. It was empty without a single figure standing. The only exception was the blinding figure in midair that could not be looked at directly. The will of Wu Dao that was condensed by the combined efforts of Araki Takashi and the others was also shattered by the golden figure in 3 steps. The hot blood of everyone on Tianhuang mainland gradually cooled down. How could they defend against such an expert and such power? Everyone was filled with despair and fear. Cough, cough. The Cloud Dragon Emperor coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and murmured, "Everyone, come back. There's no need to continue fighting." This was a complete massacre. If they continued fighting, all the living beings of Tianhuang mainland would die here. Greetings, Shenhuang. When the Protoss saw the golden figure, they knelt on one knee and bowed, shouting in unison. Shenhuang descended slowly. The golden light on his body gradually retracted, revealing an incomparably handsome face. His dark blue eyes were like a pair of sapphires in the depths of the ocean, deep and mysterious. On top of Shenhuang's head was a golden crown that was surrounded by a ring of gemstones that shone with a mysterious brilliance. It made Shenhuang look dazzling and incomparably noble. Greetings, Shenhuang. Lo knelt on one knee and bowed. Shenhuang nodded slightly and smiled. Rise, all of you. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.